Proverbs 10 through 12. We now hear the actual words of Solomon, who is giving these one-line Proverbs for a while now, up to about chapter 22. And we are hearing the word righteous quite a bit. In fact, I counted 29 times in these 3 chapters that Solomon uses the word righteous to define not just the path that a person is on, but the actual activity, the moral or ethical choice that a person makes. So we have defined righteous previously, properly, I believe, in noting what Elohim a person is worshiping. But now we do have this word used in a behavioral sense, and I think we have to see it for what it is and deal with that here. The opposite, by the way, again, of righteous is the word wicked, and I counted 29 times that word is used as well. So we have in these opening chapters of 10 and on, the actual words of Solomon now, we have this idea that a person who is on the path of righteousness, chapter 2, verse 20, will be making righteous choices as they go. So it's like having street signs that this person will encounter as they are on this path that remind a person, oh, this is how a righteous person will act at this point in time. Or when you come to this decision, here's what a righteous action will look like, and so forth. Well, what do we say about that? First, I think we should be appreciative that Solomon is not giving into what I guess you'd call in the modern terms of postmodernism, the idea that, well, morality is kind of anyone's call, that it's very subjective, that your truth is your truth, my truth is my truth. We've heard that sometimes on modern college campuses, right? Solomon would have none of that. He would argue that there is such a thing as God-given, God-directed, objective morality that can be expected out of all human activity, and that it wouldn't ever work in Solomon's day, and especially in the book of Proverbs. It would never work to say that morality is subjective. So just be ready for that Solomon will not give any time or space to the idea of truth being relative, shall we say. I would also like to use this word because of, well, really what we have to deal with when it comes to righteous behavior and righteous, being righteous because of one's worship. We will see all the way through the biblical story, in fact, all the way to the book of Revelation, the last chapter, chapter 22, verse 14, it will say, "Blessed are those who do his commandments." In other words, this idea that a righteous person will also act righteously is going to be something that is never going to be given up in the story of Scripture. So we've never wanted to divorce completely behavior from a person's status when it comes to how to define a person as righteous or wicked. We know, and Solomon had a father, of course, named David, who was not a behaviorally perfect person. So Solomon knows what it's like to live with, and even have as a father, someone who is proudly righteous. I mean, again, listen to the Psalms and how David describes himself as righteous because, again, of his love of Yahweh, but who doesn't act righteously at times. So what we do need to have, though, is a understanding, and will be something that will be worked out through the biblical story, is this idea that a person who is righteous, following Yahweh, will in time have a pattern of acting righteously. So let's be watching for that as we go. That kind of brings up one more point, and I don't know how else to define it, but what I'm going to call the deathbed conversion. I was talking to a college student a while back, and he was being honest with me, and he said, I believe in God, but I'm going to not follow him for a while. I'm going to go out and earn money because I want to be rich. I plan on giving my life to God later in life after I've earned such and such amount of money. It's just an interesting idea that someone would even plan, right, to hold off, as it were, to go down the path of righteousness, but go off on a whole different path following, he didn't believe he would be following another god, but that's how the Bible would handle that. And then at the end of life, that's literally how he's planning on this, at the end of his life, to make a conversion to the proper path, because deep down he said he believes that there is a God who will want that from him. The question that I'm not going to settle here, but I just want to introduce is, because we do need to be thinking about this, is there in the Bible what would be the equivalent of a deathbed conversion? Someone who goes down not this path, but the path of wickedness all their life, and at the very end, and I mean at the very end, just pauses before they say that they have their last breath and apologizes to God. Would that be in the biblical story allowed? Let's be thinking about that as we continue our reading through the Proverbs.